You're listening to Beyond the Campaign, and this is episode number 23. Welcome to Beyond the Campaign. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, podcast publicist, author, and host of this show and Read the Damn Book. Here, you're going to learn from political candidates and from politicians. We're not just going to talk about the issues. We're going to talk about the human beings who are investing themselves in us so that we can invest ourselves in them. This is Beyond the Campaign. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and today we are going to Virginia. I am interviewing Salaam Bhatti, who is running for Congress in Virginia's 1st District. He is a public interest attorney and is now full-time running for Congress. You're going to hear not just about his story, but about what we need to do as voters, because we need to be educated. We need to learn about every candidate, whether or not we have the ability to vote for them because they're in our district or not, and why that is so important. I know you're going to learn a lot, so get ready. Hi, Salaam.
Hey, hello, Michelle.
I am so excited to get to talk to you all the way from Virginia to California, time differences and all. Can you take a moment to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Salaam Bhatti. I'm a public interest lawyer who is running for Congress in Virginia's 1st District. I am a child of immigrants, grew up low income, benefiting from programs like WIC and free school meals. While I was in law school, and for about 9 years, not that I was in law school for 9 years, but for 9 years I lived in poverty in New York. And it was hard, but I learned the art of hustling and trying to get by with very little. Then I got a job at the Virginia Poverty Law Center, where I was a public benefits attorney, and I got to work on some amazing legislation that helped tens of thousands of Virginians and millions of Americans. Then I went to a national advocacy role, trying to defend and protect and strengthen SNAP. And I fought against the Farm Bill in Congress, fought against the Big Beautiful Bill. And now I'm running for Congress, and I got 2 boys, and I've got a wife and a fishing pole that one day I'll get to use.
The boys are going to want to use the fishing pole for sure.
Yeah.
I know that my son's always like, can we go fishing? Please, somewhere, anywhere.
And I got them like kid-sized fishing poles just to incentivize me to let's go out there. So yeah, well, once the weather warms up, that's the promise.
Yeah, and then you'll be in Congress, and then
Yeah,
there will go the time. But at least the commute won't be as far as some other representatives have.
that's right. That's right. We're in Richmond, Virginia, so it's an Amtrak, the Joe Biden method, right?
I love it.
On the track, yeah.
Yes, I love Virginia. My father grew up in Virginia. He went to UVA. My husband and I, we met in Atlanta, but then we had coinciding business trips that we didn't know about in Virginia. So I love Virginia. I think it's beautiful. I love the people, and they need some good representation like yourself. So
It's a beautiful area. It really is. And the district itself, as widespread as it is as beautiful as it is. And I took the family to West Point in Virginia, and we went to a crab cake festival, and it was just a delight. Both my sons, they had a crab cake sandwich for the first time, and they ate my sandwich. That's how much they liked it.
well, don't invite me because I'll eat all of your sandwiches.
Come on down.
You had quite the experience with growing up. As I read your bio, I felt like we connected on so many points because I too we were on welfare. It wasn't SNAP back then. You know, I remember standing in line on Saturdays at the church to get the cheese and the bread and the milk and whatnot. And funny enough, my mom also did some Meals on Wheels stuff, and I accompanied her. So I felt a lot of connection with you in all of this, and how I'm always curious if our experiences are why we're so passionate to help other people right now. Is that playing a big role for you? I imagine it is, because you can empathize much more than others.
Yeah, and it's not just my lived experience of having used the programs, but also knowing that poverty is a policy choice. Like we saw during the pandemic that the US government was able to cut child poverty in half simply by writing a check. And while much of the country celebrated that, I actually was very upset because you could have just added maybe another zero to that check and we could have ended child poverty completely? And you mean to tell me that we cut child poverty in half, and we put a sunset clause on that? Like, this is why so many people are upset with the government, and they don't come out to vote because they don't have candidates who are running on policies that would actually benefit them. And that's why we are running on a platform where it's like, no, we need Medicare for all. We don't need affordable health care because that was still eating up 9% of our income. With Medicare for all, it would only be 4%. We need things that help people get their basic needs met and not have to go through all these hoops to get different welfare programs, even though they need all of them, but they all have different eligibility levels. It doesn't make sense. We're the most technologically advanced nation in history. We should have a more streamlined approach, a more efficient approach. And with my expertise and background, both lived experience and professional, I'm the guy to get in there and cut this Gordian knot in half.
It is amazing when you consider that where we spend our money and where the priorities lie. I mean, we just bombed Venezuela, and yet we have starving kids. We have people who can't afford their health care now, and they're just getting their premiums. We're in January, so all of those hikes are going on right now. It's mind-boggling why the priorities are so messed up. What is it that you bring besides knowing this experience, having this experience? What is it that you think you can make this difference? Because you are one person, one voice, you'll be one vote, in Congress. What is it that you can do to, whether it's reach across the aisle or communicate to others that this change needs to be done?
Yeah, and the exciting thing right now is that there are about 30 targeted districts across the country, and our district is one of them. And in just about every single one of them, there's a candidate like me running, who's running on Medicare for all, ending the genocide in Gaza, taxing the billionaires. And should we get this cadre of candidates through, that's going to be an incredible movement. It's going to be an incredible revolution in America that'll move the ball forward, not just forward by baby steps, by leaps and bounds. 10 years ago when Bernie Sanders was running on Medicare for all, we all thought that was a pipe dream. And now here we are where there are candidates who are running and getting elected on that. This is going to be the most important election of our time. Not the general, but the primary is just as important, if not more important, because we need to get these progressives in. Not that people are trying to go back to a status quo or through a centrist lens, because it's that status quo that brought us the fascism of today. We really need politicians, elected officials who are running and working on things that will benefit everybody. Healthcare is the big crisis of our time. Affordability is the big crisis of our time. And that's what we need to be running on. It's not about resisting Trump. It's not about resisting evil. It's about showing a better way. And that's what our campaign is doing.
Oh, I love that. Even though we have to resist the evil too. With the primaries coming up, I get the impression that we're going to see people actually coming out to vote. More so than before. And I say this as a Californian who our ballots in November, we had two issues because we had the county assessor on the ballot and we had Prop 50. And that was it. And in most cases, that would not get people to come out and vote, yet we had record turnouts. So are you thinking that this is what's going to happen for the primaries as well in Virginia and other places?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we are going through redistricting as well. Our state assembly will be voting on that pretty much the first day they go into session, and just next week, and January 14th, 15th. And then it's going to go as a referendum to the people probably in April. And that's not a time that people are really prone to going out to vote, but there's going to be so much hype behind this, so much backlash against Trump. And this is, of course, the better way of going about democracy. So that's going to drive out a lot of engagement. And then that's going to push the primary likely from currently it's supposed to be in June. Should the referendum go through and redistricting passes, then it would get pushed. It would push the primary to probably August. And right now we have about a 6-5, 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans in the House from Virginia, and the General Assembly might try to push for a 10-1 division. So it will give us a shorter runway from primary to general, but it should be an easier win.
That means that you have to campaign even longer.
Yeah, a little bit longer. Yep.
Which regardless you would be anyway up until November, but that means that the primary is even more important. That's interesting. And that also affects fundraising and your time because it is different to focus on a primary than it is on a general election. So are you prepared for all of that?
Yeah, I mean, is anybody prepared for anything? No, like
These days, no. You don't know
there's
what you're
no,
waking up to.
we really don't. And it's just like, hey, here, I'm running based on my experience, both personal and professional. Like, I know how we can actually get people-centered policy drafted and through a legislative assembly. I know how to work in partnership with coalitions. I've led public-private coalitions. So I know how to talk the talk and walk the walk to get things done. And what we've seen this past year is that if the government wanted to, it would. Like, yeah, Trump has done awful things, but he's done them. He's
Hmm.
accomplished massive shifts and changes. And if and when the Democrats are in the majority in the House, Senate probably 2028, and in the White House in 2028 as well, we need to be on day one of that presidency in 2029. We have to be moving things just like the way Trump did on his first day in office. That's got to be the vision. None of this milk toast, we got to go through 18 different processes. We got to go hard and we got to go fast because people in poverty, which is most of America, can't wait for years and years and years.
What do you think of the current party? Because as a lifelong Democrat, I've always been registered.
Mhm.
It's how I vote. I don't like that I feel like they're not strong enough right now, whether we're talking about the DNC. I know that Schumer and Jeffries, they speak out, but I feel like speaking out in statements just isn't doing enough.
Mhm.
There's no get together and do something more, rally the troops. I don't know what they can do, but they have to do something more. What is your take on all of this?
Yeah, and again, it goes back to what Democrats are doing right now is resisting Trump. What they need to show the people is a better way. And the establishment simply isn't doing that. There's no vision that we're seeing from the Democratic Party. What we are seeing from Bernie Sanders and AOC is the Fight the Oligarchy tour. And that's brought thousands and thousands of people out to understand who is the common, adversary in this country. It's the 1%. It's the billionaires who are getting richer no matter who's in power. So our campaign is talking about things like it's not left versus right. It's this way. It's the top versus everybody else. And we have to realize we are a paycheck away from poverty. We are not a paycheck away from being a billionaire. So let's get our priorities straightened and let's tax these billionaires because they've gotten away with literal murder and starvation of our people. So what the Fight the Oligarchy tour has done is brought people together for that better vision, for that better future. And that's what we should be seeing Democrats doing, going to town halls, going to different areas, going to rural America and talking to the people and rallying them from now to get ready for the midterms, to get ready for 2028. You can't just show up 2 months before an election and think something's going to happen.
Yeah. We need our own turning point that is like the AOC Bernie tour and to get more people out there rallying. I totally agree. As a husband and a father, at
Mhm.
what point did you decide I'm going to run? And hey, family, let's talk about this. What was that decision like?
Yeah, it was a hard conversation, and it's a tough conversation ongoing, because yeah, the time gets eaten up, but we've got consistent family time built into the schedule. My children are 6 and 3, so it's a very formidable time, formative years for them as well. And all the power to my wife. She's done. It's hard, but she's getting through it. We're working through it as best we can. But what was a moment of like pride is one day I was walking outside, going outside the house with my 6-year-old, and I was on the phone, and he says, very frustrated. He's very frustrated. He goes, "You're always on the phone. You're always on the computer." And I said, "Well, I'm running for Congress to make a better world for you." And he, calms down a little bit and he thinks about it, and he says, "And for everyone else too?" And I was like, "Yeah, for everyone else too." And so he thinks about it some more, and we're outside walking, and he goes, "So you're kind of like Spider-Man." And I said, "Kid, I'm trying to be as strong as Peter Parker." So he's seeing stuff, right? They're absorbing a lot, and I take him to events, and he loves it. He loves meeting people. We went out canvassing for a House of Delegates candidate who's running in a special election. He loved meeting people, and they were talking with him, and he had a good time. So making this a family affair in some way, shape, or form, just to be able to spend more time with them on the trail has been helpful.
I love that. And I've done the same thing when we've canvassed my kids ever since they were teeny tiny. And what I find interesting is last night, my husband and I were watching Ricky Gervais's new stand up special. And he was making a big deal out of children being at protests. And, that's the adult. The child doesn't know what they're standing up for. And I disagree because just as your son sees this and obviously has huge amounts of empathy to say, not just me, right? You're going to do this for everybody. My son, who's now 10, he's like, is everyone for the people? Is the candidate you're talking to for the people, mom?
Mhm.
Because, and I go, yeah, we don't interview people who aren't for the people. So, but they get it. And I think they get it at a very young age, especially now between the internet and technology and TV and just what's going on in our country, they do get it. And I
Right.
think that they're getting it at a very young age, more so probably than you and I did.
Yeah, I mean, we were at my son and I were at a red light, and this was outside of a Tesla protest area, and so people were chanting, hey ho, Elon Musk has got to go," and my son's just watching, and I'm just like, looking around, reading the signs, and then as we drove away, I heard him gently humming, "Hey ho, Elon Musk has got to go," and then that really struck up a conversation. He's like, "Who's Elon Musk? Why does he have to go? What's going on?" And long story short, every time he sees a Cybertruck, he's like, "Oh, I hate Elon Musk."
We have very similar conversations. I'm in Silicon Valley, so we have them everywhere.
Mhm.
And there's always a comment. Yes.
Although he doesn't say hate. Hate is a four-letter word, but we say we don't like him. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
doing bad things.
Yes. We fully agree. And yeah. Yes. And we do not own a Tesla either. What would you say is the most important issue to you and I know that there are so many issues and like today we could say every single thing is a big issue, but what really wakes you up in the morning that you want to go fight for the hardest?
Yeah, it's affordability. The As a lawyer, as somebody who's sworn an oath to protect the Constitution twice because I was barred in New York and Virginia, my favorite part of the Constitution when it comes to Congress is the general welfare clause. And the Constitution says that Congress's job is to provide for the general welfare of the people. And Congress is just not doing enough with that creative principle. And so I really want to go in and just be like, hey, we got to work on the basic needs, the general welfare of society, and let everybody else thrive once their needs are met. Like, I'm not like all about we need bigger government, we need more government. Just give people their general welfare and let them thrive. That's all we need to do. So my thing is about the affordability crisis. I want to make sure that we can get Medicare for all through because that meets the general welfare. I want to do something about making the safety net more efficient. Let's use the technology we have to really, get rid of the inefficiencies, get rid of the red tape. We don't need all of that. And how do we consolidate in the right ways? So that would really help provide for the general welfare of people as well, especially at a time where so many people are losing their jobs. They're getting laid off. Like tens of thousands of people are getting laid off at a time in the corporate world. And where are the jobs for them? Because the corporate world was the jobs. There's no government jobs available for them because people are getting forced out of the government jobs as well. So we have this reckoning coming, whether it's AI related or something else, where these corporations are indebted or they're trying to create more value for the shareholder and they create more value by getting rid of people. But where are those people going to get jobs? How are they going to be able to provide for their families? And if their basic needs are not met, this country is headed down a very perilous road because society is only ever 9 missed meals away from anarchy. And with the increase in grocery prices, the decrease in people's pay, if not the entire elimination, And after 6 months, if they're no longer getting unemployment benefits, and if they can't feed their families, I mean, they're going to be forced to do things that nobody should be forced to do, which is stealing to eat. And then what happens when you steal? Well, now you're a criminal, and now you're in jail, and now this, that, the other, and it's a pipeline for the prison system, which of course is private, and they have an incentive in all of this as well. So this is a really tough nut that we have to crack, but at the core of it is poverty. And I like to say that poverty is the Gordian knot of our time. And if you're familiar with the Gordian knot story, you know that the myth is that whoever was able to solve it would become the ruler of the world. And so some guy comes up, looks at the knot, and he's like, we don't even need the rope. So he takes out the sword and he cuts it in half. And that man was Alexander the Great. He took this creative way, this out of the box thinking to get rid of the knot. And the Gordian knot of our time is poverty. We don't need poverty. Poverty is a man-made thing. It's a policy issue, and we can solve it. We've solved half of it for children a few years ago. We can solve all of it, if not 90%, for the whole country. And that means by taxing these billionaires who are hoarding wealth like they're dragons, putting everybody into the whole economy into disarray, giving everybody health care, and let's see what happens.
I would love that. It sounds so utopian in a way. And yet there's also a part of me as I'm listening to you talk, I feel like, would we have just done the status quo if we did not have Trump in office? Would things have just remained the same if we didn't have such chaos, disruption, ridiculousness happening now to cause everyone else uproar?
Yeah, I liken this moment to England post-World War II. England post-World War II is just decimated. You know, Germany has just bombed it. It's a scorched earth over there. And when the new government was elected, you know, they came and they're like, you know, we haven't been elected to go back to, you know, the status quo, to do patchwork legislation. We have been elected to do revolutionary things at a revolutionary time. And the same thing is happening with the Nazis in government over here. They are creating a scorched earth that is going to kill, if not has already hurt and harmed and led a lot of people to their deaths already due to outstanding healthcare costs. You know, we've had just the story of somebody who wasn't able to afford their asthma medicine and he had to pay his rent. 5 days later, he's dead. Like, that is this country. That's happening in this country. And that's going to increase this year because people have lost their health insurance. So we are in a revolutionary time. And people in the primaries, the candidates in the primaries who will be elected will be the ones with the revolutionary vision, not the ones who are trying to go back to the status quo. So people really need to be paying attention to the primaries, coming out to vote, because oftentimes people don't. So we really need to get people out to vote for these revolutionary visions, because come 2026 November, we got to have this revolution happening in the government. And that's what it's going to take.
I completely agree. And now you've got me thinking about the voting part and how he doesn't want mail-in ballots and how the Postal Service isn't going to postmark, you know, when it gets to the post office versus when it gets to the distribution center, and all of this nonsense for more chaos that, you know, I think it's great that there is a certain point where we are paying more attention. We have new candidates coming like yourself who want to stand up and to represent us. And I also feel that everybody's becoming more accessible. Thanks to new media, thanks to podcasts, we can connect with you all in a way that we couldn't before. You know, I guarantee that myself and others would not be wondering who's running for Congress in Virginia and, you know, can we put a face to a name or even a name at all? And yet, because of all of this, we're doing that. And I think that that's the light at the end of the tunnel that we all need to see. And you're part of that. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah, you know, the sucky part about being a candidate is call time. And you got to call people all day, all across the country, asking for money. And so one of the common questions when you go out of state, if not out of district, is, well, you're running, I'm not even in your area. Why should I donate to you? Well, it's a federal election. So the policies that we're going to be voting on are going to impact every single person. So especially if you're like in a deep red area where there's no chance, or you're in a safe blue area where there's no need to fund or to send lots of money to a candidate, look to the targeted districts that are flippable and start investing in candidates out there as well, even if it's just a couple bucks. For when it comes to candidates like me who are grassroots funded, not taking any corporate money, not taking any APAC money, every dollar really helps, because what we have to understand is that when you're not taking corporate PAC money or APAC money, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars of a vacuum in your campaign budget, because you still need to hire people. You still need a campaign manager, still need field directors, still need to print stuff and all that kind of stuff. That costs money. And so when the grassroots come together, when people from all over the country are able to chip in 20 bucks, that really makes a difference, especially early on in people's candidacies.
And that's such a great point, because you do represent all of us, not just Virginia District 1, but every single one of us, because your vote counts for every American. And I think that people also forget that, and why it's important for us to get to know everybody who's representing us, not just whoever is, in our local area.
Right.
How do you, and this is my naive question, you're not taking corporate money, but how do you stop a corporation from just going to the website and donating money? How does that even work? Because I imagine a corporation would be like, ha, I'm just going to donate to you.
Well, the great thing is they can, and we can click refund.
Okay. That would be a hard pill to swallow, but so much fun at the same time.
Right. Yeah. And the max that an individual can donate is $3,500. And sometimes in the state election, there's unlimited. You can take unlimited amounts of money. It's like the wild, wild west when it comes to Virginia state elections. But of course, we have different rules for federal elections. Now, when it comes to PACs can do their own thing at unlimited levels and yada, yada, yada. And that's why, we need some campaign finance reform. That's one of the things we're running on. We got to get corporations and APAC out of funding candidates, because that really takes away from people, from elected officials voting in the people's interests. Like, for example, I'm running on Medicare for all. If a health insurance company, if their corporate PAC is backing me, well, then I can't say Medicare for all, because that's putting their industry at jeopardy. So when you see a candidate who's talking about affordable health care, that might sound nice, but look at who's funding them, because it's probably Blue Cross, it's probably Anthem, it's probably Aetna who are funding them to do that, because it's in the affordable health care that continues the subsidies. That's monthly money to these private health insurance, paper pushing, valueless companies. You really think about it, health insurance companies don't bring any value to the system. They're just taking money from us. We are an ATM for them every single month. Every single time we go visit a doctor, every single time they give us a surprise bill. That's all we are. We're flesh money bots for them. So we can take them out of the equation with Medicare for all. And so that's why I'm not going to get funded by them. We don't want wars. We want to end the genocide in Gaza. We don't want us to be in Venezuela. So I'm not going to be getting funding from Lockheed Martin or from Boeing or Raytheon. My opponent does. And he's next in line to be the chair of the House Armed Services Committee. And he hasn't said anything to go against what Trump is doing. Because, hey, the corporations that are benefiting from war are the ones who are funding him. And so that's why it's actually even more important to look at who are the opponents as well. Like Rob Whitman, who's my opponent, is next in line to be that chair. He hasn't said anything about the lack of due process, the attacks on due process. He hasn't said anything condemning about the attack on Venezuela. So if he hasn't said anything about what's going on to our citizens and to our immigrant neighbors here, if he hasn't said anything about what we've done to the rest of the world, then he's not going to say anything when the military is used on us as well. So that's why it's so critical to be able to get progressive voices in through the primary and into the general.
It's such a great point. And I think that we as voters need to be more educated in all of this. And it takes homework. It truly does. But it's worth it when you consider that this is who's going to represent you. This is who should have your best interest at heart. This is who is defining not just your life, but your children's future. A lot goes into it. And this is very serious. And I don't think that we as Americans have taken voting as importantly as we should.
Right. And I think I hope we're coming around to a point where we are, based on all the all the over performances that are happening in the elections. I feel like with new media, as you said, a lot of people are now like being a little bit more informed. So I think that's cool. We've seen, for example, here in the special election that's coming up actually today and on Tuesday, the January 6th, there's a special election happening where the Democratic candidate who won the primary was the progressive, and his opponent was the establishment-backed who had gotten all the endorsements. But the people were like, we don't want that. We want the progressive in this race. We want them to go take a seat in the House of Delegates. So that was awesome to see that people are coming out to vote and they're voting for progressives.
I love that. Can you share with everyone where they can find you, where they can donate, where they can volunteer, do all the things to support you?
Yeah, if you want to find me, you can find me at a local coffee shop anytime, really, most likely. Online for sure, you can go to Salaam Bhatti VA anywhere on any of the social media platforms. And you can also go to linktr.ee/Salaam Bhatti VA. All my links are there, including my website, which is salamforva.com. And also my Act Blue is on my link tree as well. Every dollar helps push us through to the primary and show us to be a viable candidate. I am doing this full time, and it's been great because I get to meet a lot more people during the daytimes as compared to the evening, especially our older neighbors who may not be able to make it out to evening events. So it's been really cool to be able to meet people. I mean, it's kind of like what I was doing when I was at the Virginia Poverty Law Center. And now I just, get to be on the other side and hopefully into DC to make people-centered policy and push forward change.
I love that. I'm so grateful for not just this time with you, but for you running and for your family, working with you to make sure that this can happen for all of us. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for giving us the
I hope that you walk away from this interview understanding the importance of knowing who is running for office, whether that is your local council member or your congressperson or your senator, all the way to congresspeople and senators of other states. These are the people that are representing us. So it is imperative that you get to know them. We might not be able to call on them when it is time to call Congress, but we want to make sure that these are the people who have our best interests at heart. And so that is why it is so important to get to know them, to contribute if you can, to see what you can do for them, and to get to know them beyond the campaign.